And as you know, data protection and privacy are huge issues today. And around 6 months ago, key European institutions reached a political agreement regarding the proposed General Data Protection Regulation. And in her talk, and I hope I'll get the name right, Małgorzata Jankovska from Head of Legal at Gemius, will try to explain the key provisions of GDPR and the impact on the industry. Małgorzata?
Thank you. Hi, everyone, at the very beginning. My name is Małgorzata Jankovska, and to be honest, it's a great pleasure of being here today to give you a sneak peek into what will change in European data protection law within next 2 years, and thus how our future as the online market would look like. I wasn't sure should I tell it, but I will. Shortly after I have been asked to have this speech, I prepared a very long and very detailed presentation. And then I got an email from Alexander Petkovic. Alexander, thank you, in which he wrote that my presentation should be educational one, motivational, and last no longer than 25 minutes. And my first thought was, oh my God, come on, I'm a lawyer. I'm supposed to explain you new law. 25 minutes? But then there was the second thought. Thanks God, I don't need to explain you any tax law. So after all, here I am, and I will try to explain you in some words the general issues which we are going to face. Dear, let me introduce you Ms. Anyone. She lives somewhere in Serbia, is between 35 and 40. She's a mom, a heavy user of Facebook, and sports cars fan. How do we know all of that? Simply, we monitor her behavior while she surfs the net. We use all kinds of online trackers. The most famous one are the cookies. I'm sure that most of you heard of it and accept them when you surf the website within the European Union. Somehow, the online business, we were taught to believe that she, at the end of the day, is the anonymous one. Of course, some of us, like her online mailbox providers, do process her personal data because simply you, for example, have her address, email address. But the rest of us, we use a lot of data, like analytical one, which today do not fall under the definition of personal information. But simply to remind you that within European Union, the definition of personal data was adopted in 1995. And just to give you a context, 1995 was the year when Braveheart was released. DVD as a data storage format was announced. And eBay had just started their online auction website. That was 95. To be honest, the reality has changed. Cloud computing, big data, online shopping, all new methods when it comes to marketing. This is what is going on right now. 20 years ago, a family had one PC. And today, just let me ask you a simple question. Is there anyone in the whole audience without a smartphone today? I see no hands up. Okay, is there anyone who is not using it right now? Okay, one hand. This is what we are facing. The reality has changed, but also the mentality of internet users, the mentality of Ms. Anyone. She somehow feels what is going on and simply wants to know the logic which is behind processing the data. And the law itself is some kind of answer to the problems which we will have to face. Even before this presentation, when I yesterday asked my friends, do you want to be tracked? Do you have something against it? Do you want your insurance company to build your profile before they give you a proposition of the insurance? The answer is always no. No, or at least I would like to know what is going on and how my data are going to be processed. So this is the point and the reality in which we are here. And here, ladies and gentlemen, comes Ms. Someone. Here comes the General Data Protection Regulation, which is, to be honest, the biggest shakeout in the privacy laws from decades, and not only at EU level, but I would dare to say that this is a huge global change. Why? I don't really have much time today for in-depth analysis, but still I will try to give you the main things, especially because online market sees the new regulation as a kind of threat, or at least a big question mark. We don't know what to do with it. And why? Let me show you. First of all, new definition of personal data. There is a long and huge debate on EU Commission level. What is personal and what is not? Why the question is so important? Simply because the answer to this question, will explain you, is the set of data you use fall under the new law or simply fall outside the scope? The online market thought, well, to have the online identifiers excluded from the new definition. But unfortunately, the GDPR expressly states that cookies, IP addresses, unique identification device numbers, they are all personal data because they indirectly identify Ms. Someone. But it's also interesting, GDPR does not include pseudonymous data concept as we know it today. Simply, if you do process personal data and want to fall outside the scope of the definition of personal, you were able to hash the data, use some tokens, any kinds of encryption methods, just to no longer have this personal information. Today, with the wording of GDPR, the pseudonymous concept is not a way of getting rid of this personal part. It's simply a process which means that you protect personal information better. You make them pseudonymous just to your users be better protected, but those data are still personal, which means that you still need to fulfill all requirements which are listed in GDPR. And what those requirements are? The main one, and the most important, is obviously the legal ground for processing, which means that in order to use cookies, for example, and IPs, you need to have a legal ground. The most common one and well-known is a consent. Consent of Ms. Someone to process her personal data. But you might imagine what it will mean to obtain consent of each user. There will be a lot of practical problems. But you need to be aware that if someone is telling you that from 2018 you will have to obtain users' consent to process online identifiers, it's not quite true, because GDPR also gave us other legal grounds for processing, like valid legitimate interest of data controller. So Is the consent the one you should use in future? It simply depends on the situation in which your company is and what is your business model and what is it that you are really doing. Simply, a lot of meetings with a lot of lawyers ahead of you. I hope you'll enjoy it. Another really interesting thing, which also seems to be a threat, when it comes to build profiles. We target ads, we serve targeted ads, online behavioral advertising. And here I need to use some legal language. The GDPR states that if any profiling activities significantly affect user, you need to have his explicit consent. And what does explicit consent mean? This needs to be an affirmative action. So in most of the cases, ticking a checkbox will do the thing, but the user needs to have the exact information. What for? Why? How long? What kind of data? Which company? What about subcontractors? It seems to be a problem. But still, it seems that if you do pseudonymize data, so if you do protect them better and apply some extra measures to have them being hashed or token or other encryption methods, you don't anymore significantly affect user. So this might be a solution for this explicit consent. When it comes to user, this is the other perspective. Because those, what I present till now, these are some basic requirements, the most operational one. But the whole GDPR is about protection of data subjects. Me, you, everyone who somehow gives the online business, and of course not only the online business, their data. And this whole idea, I simply choose to present like this because this is a privacy by design. This is one of rules which is also implemented in GDPR. But what it basically means? It means that if you start to build your strategies, develop new products, starting thinking about entering other countries, any kind of strategies which you need to apply in your company, at the very beginning, you should also think of the privacy of the users. They gain a lot of rights which did not exist today within European Union on the basis on existing directive. Right to be forgotten. Most probably you have heard about the judgment in Google case. If someone will come to you and ask for deleting her data, you will have to do this. And not only from one server, but all of them and all backup copies, which also will be a practical problem. And someone needs to have right to object if she don't want to have her data being processed anymore, if she don't want to give you your if she don't want to give your her data in case of profiling. Simply, the GDPR requires you to use data on the special conditions and think of the people which gives you that data. Data processors. The great example is the whole cloud computing industry. They do not decide what is going on with the data. They simply provide us with some solutions. Today, of course, they have some obligations because in most of the cases, data controllers, so the companies who decide what data, what for how long, put on them, flow on them those obligations on the basis of the agreements. Simply hire them as the subcontractors. But when the GDPR will come into effect, there will be some direct obligations within the law. So the cloud computing companies and all processors will face new obligations, new requirements, and they will be held accountable on the basis of law. So for them, it's like the new adventure, which they didn't have till now. Maybe it all seems a little bit scary, but there are also some good news. First of all, this is a regulation. And what does it really mean? Today, we have a directive, which have to be implemented in each member state. So there are variations between the laws. And we have like German interpretation, which is a really strict one, English one, Spanish one. And no one, if a company wanted to enter another EU market, simply a lot of costs and time-consuming activities, because even though the bases of the law are the same, there are variations. Now, we will have one law for the whole continent, meaning European Union. I even heard as a catchy phrase for this, yes, one rule for all, or one ring to rule them all. So this is the nature of the change. All companies which operate within Europe will face the same rules. There is something more. It's also extraterritorial. Simply it means that those big guys from that valley will have to apply by the same rules as European companies. The regulation, you will have to comply with the new law if you have an establishment within European Union, but also if you provide services or goods, even for free, to citizens of European Union, even though you don't have your own company located within any of member state. The same goes if you monitor European Union citizens' behavior. At the end of the day, whoever is going to use Europeans' personal data will need to face the same requirements. Another one. One-stop shop. You won't have to deal anymore with 25 authorities in all EU member states. There will be only one, your national one, and with this one, you will deal when it comes to any kinds of personal data processing problems. So it also will be much easier simply to start a business, operate within all those countries. Is the GDPR a threat? Maybe it is. But now it's time to start preparing yourself. Now is the time to start talk, to understand what is really included in GDPR. Because, and I'm really honest right here, if you believe that this is the problem itself, it's not. It's just the consequence, a result of a change which happened. Our mentality has changed in reality also. And this is just an example. A lot of people start using adblock. They are doing that because of something. There are reasons. So simply today, the online industry might sit and wait and do nothing and be scared of what might come, or simply start dialogue with EU policymakers, with the whole tech industry, prepare codes of conduct, some guidelines, simply give the authorities and courts the solutions which suit you most, not just wait for them to present you with something. Because at the end of the day, we, as the online users, we love our data to be protected. And simply, we want to build trust in the online industry, and GDPR might help us with that. Thank you.
So, do we have questions? We have volunteers with microphones, yes, and people who are standing on the side, you can feel free to go there. On the other side, there's more room to sit down.
Hi, I'm Sanya from TEN. I have a question,
Yes.
because lots of us are coming from the advertising world. Do you think that GDPR will be next obstacle for the further growth of the advertising market, of the online advertising?
An obstacle.
Yeah.
Okay. Really, as I said before, today it's hard to say because it seems like this. There are specific regulations which won't be easy when it comes to its practical side. You need to implement them, and of course it will be time-consuming and cost-consuming. But at the end, this is rather a question to the online business. You are the creative one. You are the one who built the reality, really. So if you will use what is ahead of you just to gain something on it, I think it won't be an obstacle. It will be rather an opportunity.
More questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.